Hello students. Welcome to today's exciting session where we are diving deep into one of the most important units of your syllabus, Unit number 3, Graphical User Interface Programming. Now listen carefully because today, we are going to discuss the most important and expected questions from this unit, which are very likely to appear in your semester exams. If you prepare all these topics thoroughly, writing complete answers will be super easy for you. So, pay close attention, note down key points, and let's get started. First, let's understand what graphical user interface is in Java and why it is so important in application development. A graphical user interface, commonly called GUI, is a way of interacting with a program using graphical elements like buttons, windows, text fields, and menus, rather than just typing text commands. Imagine using your mobile phone or a banking application without any buttons or visuals, just a blank screen where you must type everything. That would be so inconvenient, right? That's why GUI is essential in modern applications. In Java, GUI components are created using two main libraries, Abstract Window Toolkit, also known as AWT, and Swing. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is about the container class in Java. From this topic, we can expect a question like, what is a container class in Java? Explain types of Java Swing containers. A container in Java is like a big box that holds other components such as buttons, text fields, or labels. It helps in managing how these components are arranged on the screen. There are two main types of containers in Java Swing, top-level containers and lightweight containers. Top-level containers are the main frames, like JFrame, JWindow, JDialog, and JApplet. These containers can exist independently and hold other components. On the other hand, lightweight containers are internal containers, such as JPanel, which are used inside top-level containers to organize components better. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is different types of layout managers in Java. From this topic, we can expect the question like, explain different types of layout managers in Java. Layout managers control the placement and size of components inside a container. Java provides various layout managers, such as flow layout, border layout, grid layout, box layout, and card layout. Flow layout arranges components in a row. Border layout divides the container into 5 regions, north, south, east, west, and center, and grid layout arranges components in rows and columns, just like a table. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is AWT components. From this topic, we can expect the question like, what are AWT components? Explain some AWT components. AWT components are the basic building blocks of Java GUI. These include buttons, checkboxes, radio buttons, labels, text fields, and text areas. For example, a button is used to trigger an action when clicked, a checkbox is used for selecting multiple options, and a radio button allows only one selection at a time. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is adding a menu to a Java window. From this topic, we can expect the question like, how can a menu be added to a Java window? Explain with an example. Menus in Java are created using the JMenu class in Swing. A menu typically consists of a menu bar, menu items, and submenus. For example, in a word processor, the file menu contains options like open, save, and exit. Using the JMenu bar and JMenu classes, we can easily add menus to Java applications. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is the Java DOT util package. From this topic, we can expect the question like, what is the Java DOT util package? Explain its significance. The Java DOT util package is a collection of utility classes that help in tasks like handling dates, generating random numbers, and working with collections such as lists and sets. It includes important classes like ArrayList, HashSet, HashMap, and collections. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is hashing in Java. From this topic, we can expect the question like, write a short note on hashing in Java. Hashing is a technique used to store and retrieve data efficiently. It converts input data into a fixed size value called a hash code, which helps in fast searching. Java provides hashing through classes like HashMap and HashSet. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is the collection framework. From this topic, we can expect the question like, describe the collection framework in Java with the collection hierarchy. The collection framework is a set of classes and interfaces used to store and manipulate groups of objects. It includes interfaces like list, set, and map. Lists store elements in an ordered way, sets store unique elements, and maps store key-value pairs. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is sets, sequence, and map. From this topic, we can expect the question like, explain sets, sequence, and map with examples. A set is a collection of unique elements, a sequence maintains order, and a map stores key-value pairs. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is ArrayList versus vector. From this topic, we can expect the question like, distinguish between ArrayList and vector. ArrayList is not synchronized, making it faster, while vector is synchronized, making it thread-safe. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is programming-based questions. From this, we can expect questions like writing a Java program to add to numbers using text fields, using radio buttons to display a selected option, arranging components using flow layout, storing strings in an array list, and accepting and displaying marks of a student. Students, these are some of the most expected questions from this unit, and I strongly encourage all of you to prepare these topics thoroughly. Mastering these will not only help you in your exams, but also in real-world Java application development. Keep practicing, keep coding. Unit number 4, Database Programming using JDBC. This session is essential for your semester exams because we will discuss some of the most expected questions. Pay attention, take notes, and prepare these topics thoroughly. These questions will help in your exams and build a strong foundation in database programming with Java. Let's start with the basics. JDBC stands for Java Database Connectivity, a technology that enables Java applications to interact with databases. If you have a large amount of data and need to fetch, update, or delete records, doing it manually is impossible. JDBC acts as a bridge between Java applications and databases, allowing smooth communication. Now, let's discuss establishing a database connection using JDBC. A common exam question is, explain the steps to establish a connection with a database using JDBC. To connect a Java application with a database, follow these steps. Load the JDBC driver, establish a connection using URL, create a statement object, execute queries, process results, and close the connection. Understanding these steps is crucial for writing error-free programs. Next, let's talk about JDBC drivers. An expected question is, what are JDBC drivers? Explain different types of JDBC drivers. JDBC drivers are software components that facilitate Java applications in interacting with databases. The 4 types are: AJP type AJP, JDBC ODBC bridge, uses ODBC to communicate with databases. DO type DO, native API driver, requires vendor-specific client libraries. TEEN type TEEN, network protocol driver, sends JDBC calls over the network. CHAR type CHAR, thin driver, communicates directly with the database. Another expected question is, compare various JDBC driver types and their usage scenarios. Each driver type has pros and cons. Type AJP is for testing, not production. Type DO offers better performance, but requires database-specific libraries. Type TEEN is ideal for remote databases, but adds network overhead. Type CHAR is the most used because it is platform-independent and high-performing. Now, let's move to JDBC architecture. An expected question is, explain the JDBC architecture. JDBC architecture consists of 2 main components. JDBC API provides interfaces for database interactions, and JDBC Driver Manager handles communication between the application and database. Next, let's discuss the JDBC process for connecting Java applications to a database. A common question is, describe the JDBC process for connecting a Java application to a database. The process involves loading the driver, creating a connection, executing SQL commands, processing results, and closing the connection. Now, let's discuss database connections. An expected question is, what is a database connection? Explain how to connect a Java application with a database using JDBC. A database connection allows Java applications to interact with databases using SQL queries. It is established using the Driver Manager class. Another important question is, how can JDBC connect to a non-relational database? JDBC can connect to NoSQL databases via custom drivers provided by database vendors. Next, let's discuss statement types in JDBC. A possible question is, explain the types of statements in JDBC. Compare prepared statement and callable statement. There are three types of statements. AIK statement executes simple queries. Do prepared statement executes parameterized queries. Teen callable statement calls stored procedures. A specific question could be, what is prepared statement? Write a Java program to insert roll number and student name into a student table using prepared statement. A prepared statement is a precompiled SQL statement that improves efficiency. Now, let's discuss executing SQL commands in JDBC. A common exam question is, explain the execution of SQL commands while handling databases. Executing SQL commands involves using statement or prepared statement to perform insert, update, delete, and select operations. Another question is, give the details of executing SQL commands in JDBC. The execution process involves passing the SQL command, sending it to the database, and retrieving results. Now, let's discuss inserting and retrieving data using JDBC. A likely question is, write a Java program to insert and retrieve data using JDBC. This involves using SQL insert and select queries to store and fetch data. Another related question is, write a Java program to retrieve the contents of an employee table using JDBC connection. The table contains employee ID and employee name. Using a select query, we can retrieve and display the table contents. Another question could be, write a Java program to insert student name and branch name into a student table using prepared statement. With prepared statement, we can dynamically insert data into the database. Another frequent question is, write a Java program to insert employee details, employee ID, name, age, and salary into a table using JDBC. Using prepared statement and an SQL insert query, we can store employee details efficiently. Students, these are the most expected questions from this unit. I strongly encourage you to prepare these topics thoroughly. Mastering them will help you in your exams and real-world Java database programming. Keep practicing, keep coding, and see you in the next session. Unit number 5, Remote Method Invocation, commonly known as RMI. This unit is crucial for your semester exams, and today we will go through the most expected questions that can appear in your paper. Make sure to focus on each topic, as understanding these concepts will not only help you in exams, but also in real-world distributed computing applications. So, let's begin. First, let's understand what remote method invocation is. RMI is a Java technology that allows an object running on one computer to invoke methods on an object located on another computer. Imagine you have a bank server, and you want to access your account details from your mobile phone. Instead of transferring the entire program, RMI allows you to call the method from the server remotely, just as if it were on your local machine. It is a powerful tool for distributed applications, making Java a preferred choice for network-based programming. Now, let's move on to our next topic, which is the architecture of RMI. From this topic, we can expect the question like, define RMI and explain the architecture of RMI with a suitable diagram. Also, state the goals of RMI. The RMI architecture consists of three major layers: the stub and skeleton layer, the remote reference layer, and the transport layer. The stub acts as a gateway on the client side, and the skeleton acts as a gateway on the server side. The remote reference layer handles the method invocation process, and the transport layer is responsible for managing network connections. The primary goal of RMI is to enable seamless remote communication between Java objects, hiding the complexity of network operations. Now, let's move on to our next topic, which is comparing stub and skeleton. From this topic, we can expect the question like, compare between stub and skeleton. Explain with a neat diagram the RMI architecture. The stub and skeleton play a crucial role in RMI communication. The stub is present on the client side and acts as a proxy for the remote object. When a client invokes a method, the stub forwards the request to the skeleton, which is present on the server side. The skeleton then executes the requested method and returns the result to the stub. This entire process is hidden from the user, making remote communication smooth and efficient. Now, let's move on to our next topic, which is the RMI registry. From this topic, we can expect the question like, write a short note on RMI registry. The RMI registry is like a directory that keeps track of all remote objects that are available for access. When a server creates a remote object, it registers it in the RMI registry using a unique name. The client can then look up the object by its name and invoke its methods. Now, let's move on to our next topic, which is registering and gaining access to a remote object. From this topic, we can expect the question like, explain the various methods of registering and gaining access to the remote object. To register a remote object, the server uses the naming class, which provides methods such as bind, rebind, and lookup. The bind method registers a new object, the rebind method updates an existing registration, and the lookup method retrieves the object reference for a client. Now, let's move on to our next topic, which is remote object activation and RMI interfaces. From this topic, we can expect the question like, write a short note on RMI remote object activation and RMI interfaces and implementations. Remote object activation allows an RMI server to activate objects only when needed, saving system resources. RMI interfaces define the methods that a remote object can execute, and the implementations provide the actual functionality. Now, let's move on to our next topic, which is how interfaces and implementations work in RMI. From this topic, we can expect the question like, explain how interfaces and implementations work in RMI with an example. In RMI, the client and server communicate using a common interface. The server implements the interface and registers the remote object, while the client looks up the object and invokes its methods. Now, let's move on to our next topic, which is naming and directory services. From this topic, we can expect the question like, write a short note on naming and directory services. Naming and directory services help clients locate remote objects by providing a structured way to store and retrieve object references. Now, let's move on to our next topic, which is the importance of naming and directory services in RMI. From this topic, we can expect the question like, explain the importance of naming and directory services in RMI. Naming and directory services simplify remote object management by allowing objects to be registered with meaningful names, making them easier to access and use in distributed applications. Now, let's move on to our next topic, which is developing an RMI application that checks for a palindrome. From this topic, we can expect the question like, develop an RMI application that accepts a string or a number and checks whether it is a palindrome. A palindrome is a word or number that reads the SAM forward and backward, such as radar or 121. The RMI application takes user input, processes it on the server, and returns whether it is a palindrome. Now, let's move on to our next topic, which is a simple RMI application. From this topic, we can expect the question like, write a simple RMI application where the client invokes the method of the server. This application demonstrates how a client can call a remote method and receive the result. Now, let's move on to our next topic, which is developing an RMI-based calculator. From this topic, we can expect the question like, develop an RMI-based calculator that performs basic arithmetic operations. This calculator application allows a client to perform addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division remotely by invoking methods on the server. Students, these are some of the most expected questions from this unit, and I strongly encourage all of you to prepare these topics thoroughly. Mastering these will not only help you in your exams, but also in real-world Java distributed programming. Keep practicing, keep learning, and see you in the next session. Unit number 6, Networking. This session is crucial for your semester exams, as we will discuss the most expected questions from this unit. These topics are not just exam relevant, but also highly useful in real-world networking applications. So, be attentive, take notes, and make sure to prepare these topics thoroughly. Let's start with the Java .NET package. This package in Java provides a collection of classes and interfaces for networking operations. It allows Java applications to communicate over the Internet using protocols like Transmission Control Protocol and User Datagram Protocol. It includes classes for working with URLs, sockets, and network connections. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is Java socket programming. From this topic, we can expect the question like, write a simple Java socket programming where the client sends a text and the server receives and prints it. Socket programming enables communication between applications over a network. A socket is an endpoint for sending and receiving data between two machines. In Java, we create a server socket that listens for client requests and a client socket that sends data. The client connects to the server and sends a message, which the server receives and prints. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is understanding sockets and their programming steps. From this topic, we can expect the question like, what is a socket? Explain the steps used in socket programming. A socket is a link between two computers that allows data exchange over a network. The steps in socket programming include creating a socket, binding it to an address, listening for client requests, accepting connections, and reading or writing data through input and output streams. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is the init address class. From this topic, we can expect the question like, explain the init address, class and factory methods. Write a Java program to find the IP address of your machine. The init address class in Java is used to represent an IP address. It provides methods to obtain host names and IP addresses. Using the getLocalHost method, we can retrieve the IP address of our own machine. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is Transmission Control Protocol and Internet Protocol Client Sockets. From this topic, we can expect the question like, what is a TCP IP client socket in Java? Discuss some methods of the TCP IP client socket class. A Transmission Control Protocol client socket enables reliable data transmission between a client and a server. Some important methods include connect to establish a connection, get input stream, and get output stream to read and write data, and close to terminate the connection. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is the TPL connection class. From this topic, we can expect the question like, write a short note on Java TPL connection class. The TPL connection class is used to interact with web resources through the Hypertext Transfer Protocol. It allows sending requests, handling responses, and managing connections with web servers. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is cookies in Java. From this topic, we can expect the question like, write a short note on cookies in Java. Cookies are small pieces of data stored on a client's computer by a web application. They help track user sessions and preferences, allowing personalized web experiences. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is understanding uniform resource locators. From this topic, we can expect the question like, what is a URL? Write a Java program to obtain the name of the protocol, port number, host name, and file name of the URL. A URL is an address used to access web resources. It consists of a protocol, domain, port, and resource path. Java provides the URL class to extract details such as protocol type, host name, port number, and file name. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is datagrams and their components. From this topic, we can expect the question like, explain datagram, datagram socket, and datagram packet. A datagram is a self-contained packet of information that is sent over a network without requiring a direct connection. Datagram socket is used to send and receive datagrams, while datagram packet represents the data packet being transferred. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is servlets and their life cycle. From this topic, we can expect the question like, what is a servlet? Explain with a neat diagram the life cycle of a servlet. A servlet is a Java program that runs on a server and processes web requests. Its life cycle consists of initialization, service execution, and destruction. First, the servlet is loaded, then it processes client requests, and finally, it is removed from memory. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is explaining the life cycle of a servlet in detail. From this topic, we can expect the question like, explain in detail the life cycle of a servlet. The servlet life cycle includes methods like init for initialization, service for handling requests, and destroy for cleanup. These methods ensure efficient handling of web applications. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is creating a simple calculator using a servlet. From this topic, we can expect the question like, write a program to create a simple calculator application using a servlet. A servlet-based calculator takes user input from an HTML form, processes arithmetic operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, and displays the result on a web page. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is Internet protocols and their differences. From this topic, we can expect the question like, what is an Internet protocol? Differentiate between transmission control protocol and user datagram protocol. An Internet protocol defines rules for data communication over networks. Transmission control protocol ensures reliable data transmission with error checking, while user datagram protocol is faster but does not guarantee data delivery. Students, these are some of the most expected questions from this unit, and I strongly encourage all of you to prepare these topics thoroughly. Understanding these concepts will not only help you in your exams, but also in real-world Java networking applications. Keep practicing, keep learning, and see you in the next session.